Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Zoho for B2C according to best practices so you can automate your business, sell while you sleep, and streamline your processes. I'm Drew Brockbank. I'm an official Zoho consulting partner, and I'm the owner of Brockbank Consulting. I've implemented world-class Zoho systems for over 141 organizations in more than a dozen industries. It's very difficult to present a system like Zoho. So what I've done is I've created a document going over how Zoho should work or B2C step by step. So you can see each of these bullets are either notes or different steps that are taking place inside of the system so that people can use Zoho for B2C according to best practices. This might seem like overkill, but what I've realized is if I only show you a flow chart that's a high level representation of the system, or if I show you an ERD, which is just the different records inside of the system and how they relate to each other, or if I just show you the apps or some kind of vague flow chart, then you don't get what you need to truly understand how the system works. So we need to get into the details. A lot of people are like, yeah, I'm kind of a high level thinker. I'm more of a visionary. I'm not. I'm extremely detailed because we don't get this level of detail for a system. Number one, you can't build it because there's not enough information to base an implementation or development plan off of. And number two, you can't use it because you don't know how it's supposed to work step by step and when people should be involved. So this is the document that we're going to use to base this video flow off of. We're going to start at the top of the customer journey and we're going to work our way down. The reason we're going to do it in that order, right? Top of the customer journey, bottom of the customer journey, is because if we solve problems up here, it makes our life a lot easier down here. So good to focus at the top of the journey because there's positive downstream effects on the process. So I don't want you to necessarily go through every single section. If you want to, great. I'm happy to have you. I'm happy to go over every detail that I can in this video. But if you just want what's relevant to you, I've added these questions to qualify you in the sections. Or in other words, if you want to see if it's relevant to you and if it's going to be helpful, ask yourself these questions and then skip to the section. So for example, social media visitor internet browser clicks on an asset to visit a website. That sounds like you. If you're putting out ads, if you're making content, you're trying to get people to visit your website, then great. But ask yourself this question. Do you want to understand how Zoho can help market your products and services? If you want to understand that, then you're going to want to watch the section of this video. If not, feel free to skip to the next section and ask yourself this question. Do you sell your products and services through your website? If yes, review the section. If not, feel free to skip. Do you want to build an SMS subscriber list from your website? If yes, review the section. If not, skip. So I'm trying, it's really difficult because I don't know exactly the situation that you're in, but I know if you're watching this video, it's probably you have some kind of interest in learning how Zoho should work for B2C. So ask yourself these questions. If you want to go through the whole video, great. If you just want the parts that are relevant to you, that's how I am a lot of the times. I'm like, I just want to know what's relevant for me. I don't want to spend hours combing through this video. Then ask yourself these questions to see if this is the right section for you to be in the video, okay? Then you can always reference it later. It's going to be a very meaty evergreen asset. That's the way I'm doing this on purpose, okay? So with that in mind, we're going to start at the top here with the question. Do you understand how Zoho can help market products and services? Or do you want to understand how Zoho can help you market your products and services? If yes, review the section that we're about to go through. I want you to listen through this. If not, feel free to skip to the next one. So social media visitor internet browser clicks on an asset to visit website. So here's a note. You can swap out this action for anything you're doing to try to drive traffic. Even if it was into your physical store, online store, your website, whatever it might be, if it's clicking on an email SMS link, Facebook ad, Google ad, Pinterest, etc. The only time this really that I can think of at the top of my head wouldn't be applicable for you is if someone came to the website directly by typing in the URL and that's how you get your traffic, or maybe it's referral based, you get referrals and maybe it's just mostly word of mouth. You can still track those things, but it's just a little different. Okay, Zoho Analytics should be used to track all marketing results, and we're going to go way more in depth on that in the next section. But the idea here is I want you to be able to track exactly which of your marketing efforts. So for example, let's say YouTube for me and LinkedIn is providing you with revenue. So what's so nice is if you set up your tracking correctly, you can draw a straight line from your different efforts. So let's say I'm just doing SEO, organic on Google. I can see exactly my return on investment. Okay, I can think to myself, okay, I spent, $20,000 on SEO, and I made almost 18,000. So not getting a great return on my investment there. Whereas LinkedIn, I just do repurposed content and I've made $5,000. Great. We're going to keep that going. But what's the big winner here? YouTube. YouTube's making the bulk of my revenue. And because I know that, because I'm tracking things, because I have a report that shows me that, I'm going to double down on YouTube videos. And then you can take tracking a step further. Let's go with this YouTube example. You can translate that into your own efforts. If I'm noticing YouTube's working for me, I can even dive deeper and say, well, what kinds of videos are working for me? Because if you notice on my channel, I have these different links so that when people go to the website, I can see exactly what piece of content they came from. So I can even see at the content level, I could switch this report out for lead source and go for content, which is the specific thing that they consumed or were on, or the ad that they were on, whatever the specific piece of content they were on before they visited the website. And I could say, well, I've noticed that my master classes do really well. My videos on Zoho CRM do really well. And then I can get even more specific. And then hopefully you can see, you just start to double down more and more on the things that are working. So I've had clients that I've increased their revenue by 113% year over year because we knew exactly what was working for them. And we were able to not waste all of our resources on initiatives that weren't working. We just kept doubling down on the things that worked. And so it's like this 80-20 rule. It's the 20% that's doing 80% of the work for you, and you zoom into that 20% again, and that's the 80-20 rule again and again and again. And that's how you gain leverage with marketing, whether it's organic or it's paid, whatever you're doing in marketing, that principle is always going to be true. And you want data to be able to back it up. I'm not going to go into attribution model too much here, but if you are a marketing nerd, this uses a first touch attribution model, which means if you have UTM parameters. Oh, by the way, side note, we're going to go into this, but if you don't want to add these parameters to every single URL that you have, use attributor.io. Attributor.io. It's going to do it for you, and it will store that information on your website in a cookie for up to 365 days. Which is phenomenal for a lot of reasons. But basically, attribution comes down to, let's say someone visits the website and then 6 months later they visit a website and they make an order on your site for $100 and you're doing e-commerce. Well, what do you give credit to? The second time they clicked on your website or the first time? Is it, and you can say, well, I want to give it to both. And that's called multi-touch attribution. My suggestion is you start with first touch or last touch. And between those two, I suggest first touch. I used to do last touch, but I think first touch you can make an argument for both. That's the point. But first touch is easier to track with Attributor. So I just suggest starting there initially. And that essentially is, what are we going to give credit to if someone clicks on my Facebook ad and then 6 months later they click on a Google ad and then they purchase? Let's give credit to the Facebook ad. That's what initially did the heavy lifting to get them aware of you and even allow them to then click later and then purchase. Again, you can make an argument on both. I would suggest first touch, and then you can get crazy with attribution from there. Okay, so next thing here, Zoho Analytics should track all marketing results. I showed you that. Team member will add UTM parameters to each call to action for marketing tracking. This is extremely critical. If you don't have someone that adds the UTM parameters, and I suggest that you do, even if you have Attributor, you still want to understand how this tracking is done. And then the team member should refer to this documentation for the correct UTM tracking. There's a lot of different documentation that I would refer you to, but attributor.io, UTM structure, this one would be the best one. Recommended UTM parameters, and it will take you through each of these UTMs, okay? So if you want to go through this, here's the documentation that I suggest for you. We're adding the correct UTM parameters. This will give you an idea of what each parameter means and how to structure that. There's many tools online too that you can use that you type in, the general things like, here's the campaign that I'm running and this is the source, and it will generate the whole link for you. Okay, so you can find those too. Next thing here for Zoho Social can be used to schedule social media posts, which I use so that I have a content calendar. I understand how much content's going out at a certain period of time. And those also have the UTM links. Now, the reason I spent so much time on this is if you want to drive revenue in the organization, if you want to understand how to double down on things that are working, you have to track what's going on. That's extremely critical. And that's going to lead nicely into this next section for social media visitors / internet browsers visiting the website. Do you sell your products and services through your website? If yes, you're going to want to go through this section. If not, feel free to skip to the next one. This is the step of the customer journey. Social media visitors / internet browser visits the website. So what can Zoho do to support this part of the customer journey? So if this is applicable to you, Zoho Sales IQ can track visitors and visit information. The reason I like Zoho Sales IQ as opposed to, let's say, Google Analytics, and you can use them in tandem, you don't have to just choose one over the other, is it's a little more specific or strict on what it considers traffic. So, for example, Google Analytics will oftentimes count more bots coming onto the website and more bounces, whereas Zoho Sales IQ will count less of that fluff. So you get more of an accurate depiction of the people that are actually visiting your website. You can't remove all of that clutter from your tracking, but Zoho Sales IQ, I've noticed, does a better job on average. Also, if you have forms on your website, that's when you're going to want to use attributor.io. So I've already mentioned this a little bit for creating UTM parameters. But the important thing to understand is if you have forms on your website and you want to track where people are coming from and what they did before they fill out the form, you're going to want to use attributor.io. So you'll notice I have forms on my website, and it's a little different because I'm doing B2B. But on B2C, oftentimes it's subscribe to our newsletter, get 50% off, fill out this form, whatever it might be. It's the same principle. So you'll notice that on my YouTube channel, I have these different links. Imagine you're doing an ad or you're doing a piece of content too, and you have a link. That's get your 20% off or your first order offer or whatever it might be. If you have forms on your website that people fill out, right? Here's a form. This is Calendly, but Attributor integrates with Calendly. People are going to fill out forms on your website. You want to track where it's coming from. You're going to want to use Attributor for 3 reasons. So number 1, captures UTM parameters in a cookie to avoid loss of tracking. So you'll notice something here. I have this marketing information. It's extremely valuable because this marketing information informs reports like this. If we go to marketing, it informs these attribution reports that show you how much revenue you generated, how much money you made from different initiatives or different things you tried to do to attract new customers. And you can get extremely specific on what pieces of content, ads, search terms, whatever it is a wonderland for marketing tracking if you do it correctly. So you want to make sure you do that correctly. So you'll notice I have these UTM parameters. If we go on my website though, it's here in the URL. So if I fill out this form, it's going to look to the URL and grab those. And the problem is let's say someone jumps to this page first, all the tracking is gone, it's disappeared. But what if I go back? Does it appear? No, it's still gone. So there's the issue, is this information disappears when people click to different links. And you might think to yourself, well, the solution, Drew, is I have a landing page and people come to my landing page, I don't let them go to other pages. And that's one way to do it. I don't suggest that because attributor.io solves that problem by taking the UTM parameters and storing it in a cookie. So instead of the form looking to the URL to grab the information in the URL, the form, once filled out, looks to the cookie to find the information, the marketing tracking information. So attributor.io is also nice because it will defer to the UTM parameters that you've had. But if you forget to add UTM parameters, here's the next thing, it will generate them for you automatically. So if there's gaps in your tracking, you're going to want to use attributor.io. So next thing here, it also automatically generates UTM parameters for organic traffic. So if you were to go to find my website on Google, on my Google link, I'll just show you this. We're changing my website and everything, but we'll do it this way. So you'll notice it just says drewbrockbank.com. We're going to switch to brockbank-consulting.com, by the way. You'll notice there's no UTM parameters at the end of this, right? There's no tracking. So how am I supposed to know if the first touch or do any kind of attribution tracking on the organic link? How am I supposed to do that? Well, the answer is I can't unless I want to add it to the base URL, which I'm probably not going to do. So Attributor does it for you. If it notices organic traffic, it populates a cookie, which is just a piece of storage on your website, tracking user, tracking different visitor information. It will populate those parameters for you. So that's really nice. So if you're doing SEO, it's good to have those that tracking for organic traffic too. Okay, here's a note. Shopify spell that right. Shopify and other e-commerce stores have their own way of capturing UTM parameters for when people fill out the order form, or once they actually purchase something, they have their own ways of doing attribution for those too. So attributor is for forms, and then e-commerce has their own tracking setup for when you make an order on a website too. So it can get really crazy because you can start doing multi-touch attribution. I highly suggest you just do attribution at the customer level to make it simple for first touch if you're just starting out, or if you want to get a little crazier and you have a high volume of orders, you could also do the order level. And that's what specific e-commerce stores have tracking for the order level. I would suggest first starting at the customer level and then going to the order level. And then if you want to get really crazy, you can do multi-touch attribution, but I don't really suggest that. I've made multi-touch attribution reports for people and they don't even know how to interpret them. But the nice thing too is Shopify has a great resource going in depth on the different attribution models. And it just gives you an example. If someone did Facebook ad, then Google ad, then email, let's give 100% credit to the email. That's a last click attribution. If that same series of events occurred and you want to do first click attribution, which is what I'm suggesting, I call it first touch, they're calling it first click, same thing, then 100% of the credit goes there. So this is your way of overlaying your reports on what's actually happening. You're never going to get 100% certainty and clarity on what's going on, but you get to choose these different lenses that you're looking at your sales through and your attribution through. So hopefully you find that helpful. I know that can be a lot of information, but it's better just to throw these things at you and start having you understand the principles. Because if you understand the principles, you can apply it to different situations that you encounter in business. But I don't want you to just copy what I'm doing. You can do that, but if you just copy it, you're not really going to understand why you're doing it, and you're not going to be able to take effective action that's actually going to drive any kind of change. And I want you to double down on what's working and make the most revenue possible so you're not wasting your money and doing things that are frustrating like that. Okay, so back to Zoho Sales IQ, Attributor, we went through that, Shopify and e-commerce, Zoho Analytics tracks visitors month to month. I love that in my dashboard, I can just go over here and see my visitors. Now, the reason that I'm in Zoho Analytics right now, if you noticed, is because I could get a report like this. I could generate reports inside of Zoho Sales IQ, but Zoho offers more than one application. And each of these applications have their strengths and weaknesses, there's drawbacks. One thing I love about Zoho Analytics specifically, which is a part of the Zoho One package. If you don't know anything about Zoho One, you should definitely go check it out. It's Zoho's best offer of software. Zoho Analytics allows me to grab data not just from Sales IQ, but from the CRM and all these different places in YouTube and pour it into one place. So I don't have to jump to Zoho Sales IQ to see one report and a desk for another, then YouTube. I can bring all the information into one place and then view the reports that I want to see in one page, one place, in one page. Well, 2 pages for this report, but you get the idea. So that's what I find very useful with Zoho Analytics is I'm able to bring all my reporting in one thing. That's really the issue of our time is there's a lot of software that's been created. Now we're trying to consolidate these applications into platforms, which is more than one application, so that we don't have to jump from all these different places. That's why another big case for using Zoho is I can just jump from all my applications in one place instead of having to jump from different platforms and different places for reporting all the time. That gets really frustrating. It's a lot of different subscriptions, a lot of things to keep track of. It's just a bad experience. Okay, so that's Zoho Analytics. Then you have Zoho PageSense. Zoho PageSense is a hidden gem. And PageSense essentially allows you to, when someone goes to the website, you have these high-level metrics that you can measure, like how many visitors came to the website, how many visits were on the website, what's the average session duration, how long was someone on the website. Those things can be helpful. Visits and visitors, definitely. Session time can be helpful too. If you want to add content to increase that so that people are on there longer, they're warmer, so that when you can go on to all that. Zoho PageSense is a little different. Zoho PageSense helps you with what's called conversion rate optimization. And conversion rate optimization is essentially saying, how are people actually behaving once they get to the website? So I want to show you a project here so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. We're going to look at a heat map. So Zoho PageSense can give you a myriad or multiple different kinds of reports. But what's helpful is if you install Zoho PageSense, you can get an idea of how people behave once they're on your website. So this is a heat map report. And so people click a lot here. If we scroll through and see the different places on the website that they're interacting with. So I can see here, hey, people are clicking on this a lot on my website. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm actually going to link to this because this isn't a link. I've noticed a lot of people like Z Training, probably because it's free, or Z Blitz. Maybe I'm going to make more content there. But why this is important is if you are making designs on the website or changes, it is good to have data to back up why you're making changes. So this is conversion rate optimization, is saying we're trying to get people who have visited the website to take an action. Right? For example, the action I want them to take is book free consultation. That's a B2B thing. We're talking B2C. So maybe you want them to click on subscribe to newsletter, right? That's the next action you want someone to take on a page. Maybe you want them to click on a certain product, whatever it is. This is extremely important because it informs how you're going to develop a website over time. So you want to make sure that you're set up on this initially because you're not going to get that information retroactively. So you need to install this on your site so you can at least start collecting the information on your website. How are people behaving? How are people, what are people clicking on? And then also you can do a scroll map, which is, hey, this, I actually really like this scroll map. If we can get this thing to load, here we go. Because you can see how far people even scroll on your website, which is great because then you can see how valuable your hero is, right? Because 100% of the people that are visiting your website are going to see the hero. But then even scrolling a tad bit, 25% drop off on your website scrolling down. And then 45% drop off scrolling down. And so then you can say, well, for everything we develop here, it's way more valuable than anything we're going to develop down here. So let's spend more time. So it just informs development of how you're going to change things on the website, because getting someone to the website is one battle. The next battle is getting them to do the thing you want them to do on the website. Okay. So that is extremely important. That's Zoho PageSense. It tracks visitor behavior, not just visits and visitors and how long they're on the site, but also what did they do when they got there. Okay. And we refer to that as conversion rate optimization. Conversion rate optimization, all these terms, they can get really confusing. And it's like, what is Drew even talking about? It's just saying once they're on the website, what do you want them to do after? Do you want them just to visit and see how pretty your products are or your services? Probably not. You probably want them to do something after they get on there. Okay. All right. Let's go to the last part here. Last couple sections here. Google Analytics could track visitor behavior report through Zoho Analytics. This is a great note here. Essentially, inside of these data sources, if you don't want to track just through Zoho Sales IQ, I meet a lot of people. They're like, hey, ride or die GA4, great. You can bring GA4 information. Google has all this marketing information you can bring into Zoho Analytics to improve your overall understanding of your marketing efforts, right? How are you driving traffic to the website? So just know that there's many data sources you can use inside of Zoho to report on those things all in one place. Next thing here, RB2B could identify visitors, then enrich data through Clay and send a personalized communication. I don't want to go super far down the rabbit hole here, but I'd love to explain this to you so you can get an idea and some inspiration of what's possible, because it's interesting. So there's a tool called RB2B. And RB2B essentially is a tool you install it on your website, and it starts to track the different visitors. So this is for USA visitors only. I am sorry to anyone who's international, but maybe there is an option for you. I just wouldn't know at the top of my head for this video, but you can look into it. But it's person level website identity. Or in other words, once you install the RB2B embed on your website, it will start to match the IP address with its own database. So if it finds a match between its IP address and then it looks through the RB2B database, it says, hey, this IP address, we have their LinkedIn, first name, last name, and email. We're going to send that information now to Drew in his system. I can absorb that information inside of Zoho and start a list of people who visited the website. And then I can use a cold outreach tool to say, hey, we noticed you were on the website. It'll be kind of creepy, but you get 20% off your first order. Click on this link, get 20% off your first order. And then instead of this shotgun approach where you're like, these people are in my target market. It's people that actually visited your website. So it's person level website visitor identity, but it's a little better than just doing purely cold outreach and bombing a list that you don't know if they're interested, but you think they might be. So that's something you can consider there. To take it a step further, there's then this cool, there's a tool called Clay that you can use. You can look into this more. That essentially can take first name, last name, email, and LinkedIn, and then grab even more information. So that's a little different. And this is B2C, so I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. That's our B2B. But I just think that stuff is very interesting as far as Clay and sending personalized communications, and then our B2B for getting visitor level identity. It could just be something interesting to you. I have seen cases where our B2B is used in a B2C context, but it's really just to give you an idea of what's possible with Zoho and the different tools that are available to you. Do you want to build a email/SMS subscriber list from your website? If yes, review the section. If not, feel free to skip to the next section. So what I'm trying to express here is if you are trying to capture phone number, email before someone buys something on your website, you've probably experienced this a million times. You go to a store online and there's a pop-up and it says, subscribe to our newsletter to get 20% off on your next order or whatever it is. And you're like, okay, fine, I'll get it. I want that coupon. And then they email you the coupon. Well, the reason they do that is to capture your information so they can send you promotional emails, text, whatever it might be. So if you want to do that, and I suggest you do, because most people the first time they visit your website, they're more likely than not they're not going to convert more likely than not, right? They're not going to purchase yet. But if you drip communications on them over time, they'll know who you are. And then when they are ready to purchase, they can come back. Okay. So that's the idea. So you can use Zoho Forms or another form builder to create a contact record in the Zoho CRM subscriber column. Okay. So why would you use raw lead? Well, if you used a tool like our B2B and you wanted to create leads from traffic, you could try that too. That's pretty cool. But subscriber would be, they are ready for marketing materials. Okay. They've subscribed, they've opted in, you have their information, you can start dripping communications on them. So what I'm saying is Zoho Forms, which is a form builder, nothing too crazy here to show you. I'm just going to show you real quickly Zoho Forms and what this does. Because Zoho Forms, let's take this contact me. Let's not use this one. Let's just do a new one. So you could create a form on Zoho Forms for subscribe to my newsletter. And I'm going to show you another option here because you just do email. Okay. But then you'd also add hidden fields for UTM parameters. Then you can use attributor.io to fill out each of the parameters. Okay. I'm not going to go way in depth on that, but the idea is you don't just want their email. You want to know, how did they get to the website? That way you get an indication as to how many leads you're generating, subscribers you're generating from different marketing efforts, different things you're doing to attract customers, new customers. So that's Zoho Forms. You can also, I'm going to show you this. Let's do consulting.com. It's the new website. We're not quite ready to launch this thing, but it's looking pretty good. Let's say you have, articles or something where you're joining this newsletter and it's not Zoho Forms. What you can do that's interesting is you can capture information. For example, this is on Webflow, and you can push the information to Zoho into the subscriber column using Zoho Flow. And Zoho Flow is like Zapier. It's an automation tool / a integration tool. So it allows you to connect different apps together and automate within different platforms and apps. So it's great. So that's what I do. And the reason I do that is sometimes your Shopify account or whatever is going to have a better interface. It's going to be prettier. So you can do that. We're going to talk about integrating with different platforms and whatnot later in this video. I just want to go in order of like the narrative of how someone will go through the journey. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you can either use Zoho Forms or you can push information from another form, because this looks better. If I did a Zoho form here, it'd look weird. So by doing it this way, I can make it look seamless, and then I can push the information over to subscriber. So then I have all my subscribers. Obviously, my site's going to be B2B, but I could technically have like a B2C product where I do like a training on Zoho for $50, and then I try to get people to subscribe through things like that, like a blog post or an article before they end up purchasing. So I can still do B2C stuff on my site too. Anyways, all right. So website visitor subscribes to newsletter. Zoho Forms, we talked about that, subscriber column. And we just want different columns to represent the different stages of the journey. And the reason we have these steps here, you might be thinking, well, isn't this redundant? Well, steps will give us something to base the stages off of. The steps are more important than the stages, but if you you can't design stages from the top down. You have to design stages from the bottom up, or then the steps will kind of make it confusing as to which stage things need to go through. What does that actually mean? Well, here's the high-level stages to consider when doing B2C. Raw lead means no opt-in, but you have their information. So if you're renting a list, you bought a list, or B2B, some personal level identity thing. I know I got to stop saying RB2B because then people are going to be like, is this a B2B thing or B2C? Whatever you're doing to get information in people who haven't opted in, that'd be a raw lead, okay? Subscriber, here at Marketing Ready, means promote. And here's some things you can do that I suggest can be helpful, is you can promote a loss leader. You can further segment between these two stages with the stage cart abandoner if you wanted to. So you could do a cart abandoner section 2, which would be interesting for your analytics. But essentially here, Marketing Ready, this column, all of this information needs to go to something like Zoho Marketing Automation. And then what you can do in Zoho Marketing Automation that's really nice is you can go over to your contacts, and then you can segment your database. So you can do Marketing Ready, unqualified. This is more of a B2B thing, but for B2C, you can do Marketing Ready. You can have a customers list, and you can start to segment by products that were purchased and whatnot. But it would be interesting because once you segment by subscriber, you would promote something that maybe like a loss leader. So if you're not familiar with the loss leader, this example isn't the best one, but it's just the one that keeps coming to mind. At Wendy's, they do a 4 for 4. Okay, so for $4, it's like a burger and fries and chicken nuggets and a drink. Okay, so they don't make money off of that. They lose money on that, but it's the way of getting you in the door. So by getting someone to subscribe first and then promoting a loss leader, you increase your chances of converting them to a customer, enjoying a product that's really good, and then they purchase other stuff too. Okay, so they take a loss just to get you to become a customer so they can sell you other things, because it's easier to sell something to an existing customer than to someone who's not a customer. So that's the idea. It's this like, and it's not perfect. It's not linear. This is a framework, but the framework never overlays onto reality perfectly. That's not the use of a framework. The framework is just useful so that you can organize the way you think about something. Okay, so that's the thing I'm trying to get across here for this section. Let's get this not to, there we go. Is when you get a Marketing Ready lead and you segment them, you can have a Marketing Ready section like this, and that's where you can start promoting a product that you can take a hit on just to get them in the door, experience a product, become a fan of you, and then purchase other products in the future, right? Because once they go Marketing Ready and then they become a customer, then you can upsell, cross-sell. Okay, and then you can get a review from them. Then reviews increase the chances that other people are going to purchase. You can see how this flywheel starts to spin. So a customer has purchased at least one time. That's the next one here. All these stages are listed here in the CRM. And so you can have different segments for each of these stages as well. I'd highly recommend that. Has purchased one or more times, upsell, cross-sell, and get a review. So then you can start saying, hey, for customers, let's do a drip campaign. And when we create this drip campaign, the first message that's going to go out is the loss leader, or for the customer would be a cross-sell opportunity or an upsell opportunity. They bought this product, we're going to sell them this product. And then you can say, the second email that we send out to them is going to be, can we get a review? We noticed you bought this product. Did you enjoy it? Give us some feedback. And then there's a whole other flow you can do on that. But this is really just to give you the high level understanding of how these things work. So note, one or more sales orders associated would consider someone a customer. You don't have to manually do these things. The reason I put this here, one or more sales order associated equals a customer, is we can integrate your orders into the Zoho system, either through inventory. We can push them over to a sales order model inside of Zoho CRM. There's different ways to do it. Depends on your situation, your different technology that you're using. But if we notice, hey, there's orders against this contact, they're a customer. They've ordered from you. They're not going to be a subscriber, okay? So you can automatically have these segments done for you. You set it and then forget it so that you can look at your information in an organized and helpful way, okay? So that's customer. Then you have evangelist. That's someone who's giving you a review, and you can even bucket them just to see, hey, as they progress through their journey, how many people are actually filling out reviews here? And is that the bottleneck? If so, how can we get more reviews, more positive reviews, and improve the customer experience that way? And the more reviews you can get, more credibility you have, the more people would trust you, more likely, and then purchase from you. Then you have rejected. It's not a real lead, and this is really your junk stage, right? Rejected. You can mark this as junk too. Honestly, for most people, it's going to be a better way to phrase it. Okay, so no AI repurposing tools to write your emails for you. So inside of, let's take marketing automation, for example, once you segment these things, okay, you're going to want to send out some kind of communication to them. So I'm going to show you some of the different email campaigns. You can do SMS campaigns too. I'm just going to show you this. So we're going to do a demonstration campaign. You can also do a drip, which I'm going to go in depth on in just a moment. Let's do e-commerce. We can integrate with Shopify. We're not going to. We don't want to quite yet. I don't want to do this. I'm going to go back. I'm just going to show you a different template. But you can integrate. We'll talk more about the integrations. But the idea here for content is you can take advantage of these different templates. And if you don't want to write everything out, let's say you do some content or something, you can have an AI repurposing tool write it for you. ChatGPT, you can kind of give it a prompt and then generate the actual text for these things. Okay, so that can be helpful for you if you're like, oh, I don't want to write it every single time. Well, you can prompt and get a pretty good promotion, then use a template and then send out a marketing blast. So I want to categorize two things within email/SMS communications or text communications. You have a blast, which is a one-time scheduled communication, mass communication. Then you have a drip. Sometimes they're referred to as workflows. They have a lot of different names, but that's more proactive. It's saying, okay, if someone is a customer, we first want to send them an email day one after becoming a customer. That's fill out a survey and tell us how we did. Day 3, send them an upsell opportunity to purchase a product that's even more expensive than the one they bought. And then day 5, we want to ask for if they'd be willing to review the initial product they bought or whatever it is, but you're scheduling them in advance. And what that looks like, I'm going to show you here. I'm going to share my screen in just a second with you. They're called journeys inside of Zoho Marketing Automation. Oh, it already exists. Demonstration journey. And the journeys are multiple different emails that you create. Okay, so think proactive and then reactive. Reactive would be a campaign or email blast where you just a one-time communication. And that's good too, right? Because you can't be proactive about, let's say, a newsletter. You don't know what the news is going to be in 5 months. You have to wait till the month's done and then you can send out a newsletter. So you have to be reactive. It's not necessarily bad or good. You want to use both. And so you want reactive, you're sending out maybe on a weekly basis, monthly basis, some kind of communication, whatever it might be to your list. In addition to that, if people are in certain segments, you want to tailor the communication that they're getting. And that's where these different journeys come into play too. Just to preview this, you can see what you're able to do here. If they're added to a list or a segment, you can do time delays, send email, send text, whatever you want to do, okay? So that is really critical to understand there. Once someone subscribes, that's what you want to do about the information you have in your system, because Zoho is, number one, about representing what's actually happening in the business digitally. So capturing information. And then number 2, doing something about the information that you have. If you're just capturing all of it, but you don't make better decisions, then why did you, or you don't, make better decisions in the customer journey, improve the customer journey, then why did you collect the information? Why do you work so hard to get all this information if you're not going to do something about it? Okay. Next thing here, Zoho CRM will push contact information. Zoho CRM will push contact information to Zoho Marketing Automation for further nurturing. We discussed that. Zoho Marketing Automation will send campaigns/drips. You can also use Zoho campaigns as opposed to Zoho Marketing Automation. Zoho Marketing Automation is simply more robust. One way to think about it, Zoho Marketing Automation is mimicking a lot of the capabilities that exist inside of HubSpot. HubSpot started as a marketing automation platform. So marketing automation is more of a reflection of HubSpot, whereas Zoho Campaigns is more of a reflection of tools such as MailChimp, more stripped down versions of a marketing automation platform. There is a lot of overlap there and it can get confusing and go down the rabbit hole for a long time, but that is, that's what you need to know at a surface level. Okay, so Zoho Marketing Automation will send campaigns and drips, email/SMS to the contacts. That's what you ideally want to have there. That's the best way Zoho can support this part of the journey after they subscribe. And Zoho Marketing Automation will score the leads based on behavior and information, if applicable. So if this is applicable to you, you can start doing scoring. And if people interact with a certain amount of emails, you can start to rank, hey, these are the hot leads inside of your system. So that would probably be less helpful if you're in e-commerce, and more helpful if you're doing B2C, but you maybe sell a service to an individual or a higher ticket product to an individual. Because then you can start to prioritize your list of leads based on how they've interacted with emails. You can score like every time they open an email, we're going to give them 10 points. And then every time I see that their title is they're a business exec, then we're going to give them 50 points. So you have behavior-based scoring and then you have information-based scoring, things like that. That's much more applicable. I mostly apply those tactics to B2B situations, but I want you to be aware of how Zoho can support different situations in business because it's important. Okay, and with that, that is how Zoho can support different parts of the customer journey. With this step, website visitor subscribes to newsletter. Also, we're going to move into website visitor purchases a product, physical and or digital. And this is where it's going to get interesting with the integrations and the next step of the customer journey. Do you want to track product purchases and inventory in your Zoho system? If yes, review this section. If not, feel free to skip to the next section. This is the step of the customer journey where a website visitor purchases a product, physical and or digital. If it's not relevant to you, feel free to skip to the next section. If this is relevant to you, stick around and find out how Zoho can best support this. Let's talk about stores. So inside of Zoho, inventory specifically, which is an application within Zoho, you have the ability to integrate with different shopping carts or e-commerce platforms. Zoho Commerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, these are third-party integrations. These are by Zoho. Shopify is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? This will allow you to skip a lot of manual work, right? So instead of going to a shopping cart, someone orders a couple different products, here's their sales order. You don't want the sales order to exist just in the e-commerce platform. You want the contact, whoever purchased in the sales order, you want that to port over to Zoho. And the way that you can do that is with this integration, okay? So I'm going to show you exactly how this works. If you go over to the shopping cart, you've got these setup buttons. If you're in Shopify, Zoho Commerce, which I'd recommend being in those, then you can just set up the Zoho developed integration, which works great, okay? And to learn a little more about this, you got the items that connect, you got the sales order and contacts, and then you've got the shipment order. So that information, you don't want to have to update manually between systems. You want it to happen. You want a seamless integration there. It will make your life so much easier. And then here we have Zoho Inventory will display the sales order information in Zoho CRM via the Zoho Finance Zoho Inventory integration. So what's really nice about Zoho One is then because the Zoho Inventory application, the Zoho Finance applications, which include Zoho Books, Zoho Billings, applications like that, we can then back out of here, we can go over to the CRM, and inside of the contact record, we're going to see a Zoho Finance module. Okay, so if we go to Finance here, we can then see if there's multiple sales orders that have come in through the website for a specific contact. So that information, we don't have to jump around from app to app. We can go to Zoho CRM. It has a very tight integration with the finance suite, and we can see the information here, right? 360-degree view of the customer. That's what you want. You don't want to have to jump from app to app. You want it tied in so you can see all the information that you need in one place. Next thing here, the integration will also create a new customer as a contact. I think we went over that. If the contact doesn't already exist, for example, if the customer never subscribed to the newsletter. So although I'm presenting this in a linear format, we understand customer journeys aren't always linear, right? They might not visit the website, then from the website, subscribe to your newsletter, then purchase something, right? You could be on the TikTok shop if TikTok's still around. And by the time you're watching this video, you could be on, they could just subscribe to the newsletter and never purchase. They could purchase and become an evangelist by giving you a review right off the bat. It can go many different directions, okay? But it's helpful to view things in stages so that you can get an idea of how to categorize what's happening in the organization. The idea here is if they go from nothing to customer, that in Shopify, we get the information or the store porting over to Zoho inventory. And then it enters the customers module. There's an integration between customers in Zoho CRM. So it ends up in the contacts module. And then you're able to bucket those contacts specifically the way that you want. We're going to talk more about that. So Zoho Flow will initiate an automation when a sales order is created in Zoho Finance. Then Zoho Flow will update the existing contact to the stage customer. And the way it will find it is based on the email inside the contacts module if the contact stage is not customer or evangelist. Okay. So Zoho Flow will automatically update based on inventory orders that contact, so it's categorized correctly. And think about this again. We have the Zoho CRM contact, and then we're using a marketing automation platform to send emails so we can sell while we sleep. And let's say Zoho Marketing Automation or Zoho Campaign. So those apps are sending emails and SMS. So the order comes in. Maybe we sold a loss leader, so a product that we don't make a ton of money, or maybe we take a loss on profit so that we can just get them in the door. But then their contact information goes from Shopify e-commerce store / an e-commerce store to Zoho inventory to Zoho CRM, then to Zoho marketing automation. So all of that can happen seamlessly if things are set up correctly inside of Zoho. So you can sell while you sleep, track everything that's going on, and do it all automatically. Okay, Zoho Flow will initiate this automation when each day at 8 a.m., then iterate through each contact with a sales order, then update the total customer value. Essentially, this can be helpful if you're looking at different contacts and you're thinking, okay, I see that we keep getting these $2,000 orders, $200 orders, whatever it is, whatever's high value for you. And these customers are of very high value. Let's now sort these customers by how we acquired them. Then you can notice these patterns like, well, all of our high value customers are coming from this Facebook campaign that we ran. So we're going to do more variations of this campaign. We're going to double down on this kind of campaign so we can drive more revenue for the organization instead of spending money and time on other initiatives that provide less of a return on investment. So that's the kind of mindset that you want with these things, is you want to roll up the value to different customers. You can also do that in Zoho Analytics, but I just wanted to throw in a different automation to get you thinking about what's possible in Zoho. And then Zoho Flow is like Zapier. If you're not familiar with Zoho Flow, it allows you to create different automations inside of different applications and integrate different applications together. Team member will use Zoho Inventory to track inventory and packages. Inside of Zoho Inventory, we are able to track what packages have not been shipped, the shipped packages, and delivered packages. Okay. And we're able to integrate with different carriers, shipping carriers. So this information comes back automatically for us as well. Okay. And you have other tools like Easy Post to assist with this that connect with different shipping carriers globally and then port the information into your system. Okay. So many different options for doing that automatically too. It was funny when I was very early on in Zoho, I was working with someone, I was building this manually through I think it was the UPS API. And I was working with their API. I'm like, I feel so smart. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is out of the box. And that's a reason you want to work with a seasoned expert, is they'll understand these nuanced things instead of saying, yeah, we can do that. And we're going to build it all custom. No, most of these things are out of the box. You just need someone who knows about it so that as you write out your operations, you can take advantage of everything that Zoho has to offer. You can configure it instead of taking 2 to 3 months to build things custom that were already available to you out of the box. So very valuable to work with someone who understands the system there. All right, team member will use Zoho Inventory to track packages. Got it. Zoho Inventory will update shipment statuses automatically through shipping carrier integration, as you can see here. And then Zoho subscriptions can be used for recurring purchases and auto charges. So Zoho subscriptions has been renamed to Zoho Billings. And so if we go here to Billings, you can see that we can create these different subscriptions. See, billing subscriptions. So I'm going to change this. Zoho Billings subscriptions can be used. You can create various subscription plans here, and you can embed these on your website. So they select a plan, then they select a plan here, subscriptions created, invoices raised, payments are made, and then once they reach the end of their billing cycle, their subscription canceled or expired. So you might be selling a digital product on your website as well. It might not be physical. For example, I've sold courses, training programs. You can integrate with those training programs and courses if they have what's called an API. An API is the way that a platform or application allows you to communicate with it via automation. So you could say in most API documentation, if you want to explore this, here's just an example. So we'll do Shopify. We'll do Teachable API docs. And so let's say you were selling a training program on Teachable as an example. You can go over to their API documentation, and then let's see if they have webhooks. Yep, they have webhooks here. And we can say they have webhooks, which means if we think of an automation in terms of when, if, then, when something happens, if it meets a certain criteria, then we're going to do something about it. We want to say when there's a new order, a new sale, we want to take the sales information and we want to push that to Zoho Inventory or Zoho Books so that we can mark the sales order, so that we're keeping track of all the financial transactions in the organization. So some of these are just going to be available out of the box, like you saw that the Zoho Commerce and Shopify integrations. Those are out of the box. Or in other words, they've been created for you. Some, like Teachable, there's not enough people using Zoho and Teachable to justify making the integration out of the box, so you'd have to create that one manually. But I just wanted to show you that it's still possible to do that. So those are some of the ways that Zoho can support the part of the customer journey where a website visitor purchases a product on the website. Website visitor submits a form regarding a B2C service, such as personal training, plastic surgery, catering, lawn care, house cleaning, daycare, etc. Do you want to track requests for service and close B2C deals? If yes, review the section. If not, feel free to skip to the next section. Zoho Forms will add the form submission as a Zoho CRM lead. Now, typically Zoho CRM, the leads module is going to be for B2B opportunities that are unqualified, but there's still situations in different B2C organizations in which you'd want to use the leads module. So for example, let's pretend that you ran an organization that does plastic surgery and you're the head of marketing. Well, you want to make sure that on your website, there's a form so that when people are interested, you can see if they're qualified for the service that you provide or whatever you're offering. And you can use Zoho Forms to collect that information and then push it over to the CRM as a lead. And you've got to understand that inside of Zoho CRM, different records represent different things, okay? And so the whole goal of CRM software is to represent digitally everything that's real. So what does that mean for you? Well, in leads, if someone submitted this form, they would be an unqualified opportunity, okay? That's what a lead represents. A deal represents a qualified opportunity, a contact, a person, an account, and an organization. So for B2C, do you need accounts? Well, you could have it. You can connect it. You can kind of relabel this family and have it as, the family record for different people. but I don't really see it being that useful in the context of this surgery or this plastic surgeon here. So if the Zoho form was filled out, inside of the leads module, what you can do here is you can bring this over and have a sales ready lead, okay? If you were doing B2B, you could add MQL, but for B2C, you just have a sales ready lead. And then from here, and this depends on how often leads are qualified, if they are almost always pre-qualified, then a deal can just be created. But essentially you want to model the process here at a stage level, because stages aren't steps. Steps are the specific things that you need to do in order to execute a procedure or a process, right? These are steps. This is getting granular with steps. This can also be used for SOP, standard operating procedures. These are stages. These are general phases of the process, okay? And steps, once you have your steps written out, inform the stages that you should have. So you group steps together, and that becomes a stage in the system. That's how you come up with these. And if you haven't done it before, I recommend doing 4 to 7 per Kanban view. This is a Kanban view here that we're looking through. And if this is your process where people go onto the website and they submit a form, that's their first touch with you, then you would have sales ready. You could even have marketing ready if you had to subscribe to a newsletter or something like that. So they become sales ready. Then the team member would qualify the lead and convert the lead to a deal, right? So let's say Naomi filled out this form, told us a little bit about herself to book a consultation. Well, great. Then Naomi would be sales ready. And if I was in the front office or I was doing sales or prospecting for this organization, I would see Naomi's email. I could send an email and then I could give them a call. And here's the thing you want to understand is when someone becomes sales ready, you don't want to just randomly contact them every time. It's good to have a cadence, which is if someone submits the form, I'm going to call them in the first 20 minutes, and then I'm going to email them the first day. And then the second day, I'm going to email them and call them. And the third day, I'm going to email and call them. And then after that, I'm done because there's too many attempts. Or you could say, well, we're going to contact them on a regular basis forever. But either way, there's got to be some kind of cadence in which you're mapping out what you're going to do once someone is sales ready. And that's where you have these things called cadences inside of Zoho CRM. Shouldn't be too big of a surprise there. And these cadences allow you to map out what you're going to do when there is someone who is sales ready. Follow-up 1, follow-up 2, follow-up 3. Some of these can be automated, right? So if it's an email, it can be automated. If it's a task, that's something you got to do manually. And a call, you got to do manually too, okay? But you can automate a lot of that outreach if you're doing a lot of emails. You can do, you can have yourself have the system create you a task to notify you to create, send an SMS as well. So you can add different things in the cadence to remind you, hey, this is what we do. So you get these task notifications, does part of it automatically, and you know when to call them. Okay, so that's for Naomi. Team member will connect with the contact to close the deal, email, SMS, DM. So a call would be made. Let's say a contact was established. Naomi picks up the phone. I'm like, I saw that you filled out the form. You're interested in this plastic surgery. Let's talk. And Naomi's like, yes, I'd like to schedule a consultation. Okay, great. I'd key in the consultation into a Google Calendar for whoever's going to do the assessment for her, whatever it would be. Okay. And then Naomi, I would convert Naomi into a deal. And the reason I would, and this is a bit wonky, this part, okay, it's a little better. The reason why is just because there's so much on the screen here. So if I convert this, I'm going to turn Naomi into a deal as well. And essentially what's happening here is we don't want to give anyone with a heartbeat and a Wi-Fi connection. Typically, there is so much nuance that goes into this. So I revised my thinking based on the organization and client in front of me. But when someone first fills out a form, the only requirement to fill out the initial form is to have a heartbeat and a Wi-Fi connection. We don't want to give anyone with a heartbeat and Wi-Fi connection permission to enter our deals module because that's our clean module. Leads, messy, deals, contacts, accounts. We want to keep that pristine. So we use the leads as a safeguard in these situations for what can happen in later down the road. We want to do some kind of qualification. And that's why in this example, if I'm talking to Naomi, I'm making sure that Naomi has the budget, that she can pay for it, that she actually needs what we're offering, that the timeline makes sense based on what capacity we have, things like that. And then I can convert Naomi into a deal, okay? and I can book that. Then let's say Naomi goes in, okay? Team member schedule service. Service is scheduled, and team member or Naomi goes in and has the assessment, and they talk about what kind of plastic surgery she wants and all the details there, and then gets Naomi scheduled for the actual surgery. Well, then Naomi would have to do some kind of payment, right? Some kind of down payment or deposit deposit on what she's going to purchase. So then that's the part of the process here that you can see. Team member schedule service. If the service requires field service management, then Zoho CRM can be integrated with Zoho FSM. I'll loop back to that. Team member sends the invoice via Zoho Books. So inside of Zoho CRM, we have the ability in contacts to then just go in here. Once Naomi's converted, let's pretend this is Naomi. Then you can go over to Zoho Finance, create an invoice, and then send out the invoice. Okay, it's as simple as that. And then Naomi will get that link. If Naomi needs to make the deposit right then and there, you can use a point of sale solution to have Naomi sign something, swipe her card, and then the invoice would populate here. You could even have it populate as a sales order or an invoice. We're not going to go too down the rabbit hole on there, but the records could roll up via an integration. Okay, so that's to collect the payment. And the team member can create a subscription using Zoho subscriptions. Zoho subscriptions are now Zoho billings. I'm going to change this here. Create a subscription using Zoho billings, formerly known as Zoho subscriptions. And Zoho subscriptions can be used to, if there is a subscription service or offer that you have. Okay, so you can create a plan for the customer. They can enroll in the plan, a subscription then is created, the invoice is raised, payment made, and a billing cycle, subscription canceled or expired by the end of the billing cycle. Okay, so you can create different subscription plans for people as well, based on what you're offering. Maybe you're offering a regular lawn care service and you wanted to make a subscription. Okay, so let's say you provide some kind of B2C service. Let's use lawn care, that can work. And you need to schedule technicians. Maybe you are doing pest control. But if you have an order of some kind and you got to schedule a service, you can use Zoho FSM to deploy resources or technicians or field techs, whatever you'd like to call them, out into the field and organize their work for them. And so if that's applicable to you, there's a tool called FSM, and it integrates with Zoho CRM quite well. And this allows you to manage your resources in the field. So first you'd have a request, then you have an order, then you can schedule those different orders. So if someone's like, hey, I'd love to get some lawn care. I'd like my house cleaning. I'd like some kind of service for my home. I can schedule that service appointment, or I can add a service appointment, and then I can go over to a dispatch console and say, these are all the service appointments that I have, and I can schedule on the calendar. I want to show you this too. If you have different technicians, right? So Drew, if you have multiple technicians, you can then play this game of match where you have all your appointments here and you start to add them onto the board on their associated time. Okay. So I know I'm going super fast through all this. Some of it's going to be relevant to you, some of it's not, but I want to give you an idea of how powerful it is to do all these things. And last thing as we wrap this up, it might be confusing to you why it takes so many applications and why it takes so many modules and so many records and so many fields to do this. And the important thing to understand is there's a million things you can do inside of Zoho. None of them are worth doing unless they support your objectives and processes. So you want to weave through those things because you could spend a lifetime in every application getting everything out of it. You don't need to get every little thing out of it. The way you unlock Zoho's full potential and get the most out of the system is by very clearly writing out your processes and matching these processes with the parts of the system that can support them. That's how you unlock Zoho's full potential for your organization. It's not by using every single feature that's possible, every application that's available. It's by getting optimized processes that are optimal for your organization and then supporting all of these with the applications, modules, features, fields, etc. that are available inside of Zoho. Do you want to understand the Zoho customer support workflow? If yes, review this section. If not, feel free to skip to the next section. This is the step in the customer journey where a website visitor or a customer requests support. Let's take our e-commerce site, for example. I purchased these different products. They got to my door and they're completely ruined. And I want to reach out so that I can get a refund or I can get a replacement for my order. Well, there's this email. So I'd go to this email and I'd say, hey, this is what happened. Here are some pictures. How can you help me? Well, so that's on the visitor side, right? How does the system work in the background? What do you do on your side from the business operations standpoint to support the customer in their journey at this point? Well, you have Zoho Desk. And what's nice about Zoho Desk is you can go to the different channels available. And in these channels, you have different ways that customers can reach out to you for support. You'll notice one is email. In the email section, you can create the support email address and put it on your website so that when people email you, it comes over to Zoho Desk and it enters the ticket section. And this is where I want you to think of each ticket as an email that's coming through your inbox. Zoho Desk is simply a shared inbox. So in your own email inbox, other team members, you could add them. There's ways you can add assistants to your different email inbox, but generally speaking, you don't have other people in the organization in your personal email inbox or in your work email inbox. It's your inbox. But customer service is a little different. If you're on a team, even if a team of 2, you may want to tackle some requests. They might want to tackle some requests. You may be available at certain points of working a different ticket. They might be available. So you can work together through a shared email inbox. Also, if you're just doing customer support yourself and you know you're going to have to add people over time, you may as well move operations into Zoho Desk so you can have a system ready to scale with you as you add people to the team. That's important to understand too. But these different emails, call-ins, if they're interacting with chat, you can have all of that populate as a different ticket. A ticket represents an issue, a question, a request that a visitor or a customer has regarding your organization, okay? So that's the first thing. Website visitors, customers send support requests via email. No, any support channel supported by Zoho Desk can be used here, including forums, email, chat, etc. Zoho Desk will then add support requests as a ticket in Zoho Desk. Okay, so Zoho Desk does that part automatically unless it's a call-in. That's a bit of a different story. So when someone calls in, you can just add that ticket for them. If you're in customer support, or even if you're a solopreneur and you just want to keep track of that, then Zoho Desk will assign a ticket to a user. So if you're a solopreneur, great. It's going to be really easy to auto-assign. If you're on a team of 5 people, you may want to do customer support assignment, ticket assignment, based on the round robin. So you evenly distribute all the requests coming in the same order to the same users that are on the customer support team. So that's oftentimes what people do. They'll just do a round robin, or they'll assign first to the customer support manager, and the customer support manager will do an initial glance of the ticket and then assign it to somebody else too. So you can do it that way. Okay, so that is the tickets and the assignment. So team members or a customer support member will respond to the ticket. The nice thing about responding to these tickets is initially you're going to go to reply, you're going to have this conversation, and you're going to notice that as you resolve these different issues that come up in customer support, that there's patterns. People are asking the same things and you're giving very similar answers. And so you start to wise up and think to yourself, why am I manually writing this out? I've answered this 1,000 times. And that's what allows you to graduate to snippets. You have these different snippets, these different statements that you're saying over and over again. You can create these different snippets, and then you can click on them and it will add the test snippet right there. Okay. So also you can graduate to templates and you can share it with the team. Then other team members can use the templates too. So they can click on it and then boom, a template will be applied to your response. Okay. That's just an example. That's a default template there. Then templates can get sophisticated enough where you're like, we want this to be added to our knowledge base so that when we onboard new employees, customer support reps, they read through this knowledge base to understand the different issues that our customers are facing. And sneak peek, you can take the knowledge base and then put it on your website too, so that when someone goes on your website and they see that there's a help section and they go to help section, they can see all the different knowledge base articles so they can solve their problems before they get to you. We'll get more into that in just a second. Okay, so you can graduate from snippets, templates, to a knowledge base. And then you can click on any of these to essentially pre-populate a section of the ticket or the whole ticket itself when you are trying to help customers and whoever is submitting these requests. So that is the power there. Let's go over proactive versus reactive support. So if someone, let's say in this example where I'm on the e-commerce site and I order these things and everything's broken, they get to my door, it's all damaged, and I say, I might blame it on the carrier, but you get it. Some issue happened. Maybe the product quality was bad, the way they manufactured it was bad, and I emailed them for support. Now I'm a support agent and I see this email coming through. Oh, this product was manufactured bad, blah, 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 blah. I want a refund. I want a replacement. As a customer support rep, I'm being reactive to that. They emailed me. I react to the email by emailing them back. You need that level of customer support, and you can make it easier by having these different templates, snippets, and knowledge base articles. But then there's another side of support, which is really important as well, which is proactive support. And proactive support would be going to a section, let's say there was a help section here, or in these frequently asked questions section, there's an FAQ or a help section. Maybe there's already articles, how to oil your board for this example, or how to request a refund, already written out support articles for people that they can go through before they even reach out. It isn't going to completely stop the reactive part of support, but by being proactive inside of Zoho Desk, you can create a help center. And this help center would allow you to publish something like this, knowledge base articles, communities, people can add tickets right from the website. So they can just search for different questions that they have and then go through a knowledge base article and then get the support that they need without ever getting to a customer support rep. So saves the customer support rep's time. It's a win-win-win. It's a win for the customer because then they can get the help that they need by just going to the website and essentially doing a self-service as opposed to getting customer support involved and all this back and forth. It saves the customer support time. It saves you time, or it saves you money if you're the business leader or organization leader or owner, because your customer support rep spent time helping other people save their time, which saves you money. So it's a win-win-win all around to be proactive and reactive when it comes to support. So that is the last part is the team member will then resolve and close the ticket. So they can basically neatly organize all these tickets that are coming through. You can say, is this still an issue? If not, you can mark the ticket as completed so that you can move on to your other tickets that you want to work through. Okay, so closed, escalated, different statuses for different tickets to see where they're at in the process of providing support. So with that, that is how Zoho can support different aspects of the customer journey once a website visitor or customer requests support. Do you want to gather feedback and or reviews after your customer purchases something? If yes, review the section. If not, feel free to skip to the next section. Customer submits a review. Okay, how can you support this part of the customer journey with Zoho? Well, in Zoho Books, you're collecting the different orders. So once an order is submitted, you can add a custom field to a contact record in Zoho CRM, and it can be called last purchase date. And the last purchase date signifies the last time that they purchased something from you. Then you can have a workflow that looks at the date and maybe a day after or any other time period after, maybe it's 7 days, maybe it's a month after, you send a email asking for feedback. So you don't want to do it instantaneously, right? So once someone orders, you don't want to send them and say, give us feedback. How was that order that we sent you? How was the digital product you purchased? How is that physical product, the breadboard that we sent you, whatever you're selling? Because they're like, I just bought it, like, I don't know. So you could have this based off of the delivery date. That's more complicated. You could also just average it out and say, on average, when we sell something, a physical product as opposed to a digital product, it takes them 7 days to get. So we'll send the email, right? Or other time period, we'll send the email 20 days after asking for feedback. Then Zoho Flow ChatGPT will analyze the sentiment of the feedback You can add this in the workflow. If AI ChatGPT determines the feedback will lead to a positive response and a likely 5-star response, then Zoho Flow will trigger another communication for the customer asking for a review. So you can do this, okay? You may want to, you may not want to, but you get the idea. Initially, you can send an email saying, hey, give us some feedback, and then you can do some sentiment analysis. You could use ChatGPT. Basically, this would all take place in Zoho Flow. So just to show you this, because I know I'm just talking out loud like a crazy person about this automation, smiling because I'm crazy about this stuff. But you can see, we'll do feedback demo. Inside of Zoho Flow, we can connect these different apps to each other, right? So inside of the app section, I can go to Zoho Books, and then I can do order. I don't want purchase order, I want sales order created, right? To follow this workflow, customer submits reviews. So purchase date, go through this, books, just jump back out there, order, do variable name trigger, and excellent. We can now go into Zoho CRM. We can make an update in Zoho CRM. Zoho CRM will execute the workflow rule, asking for feedback. We can start to build all these different applications in. ChatGPT, do ChatGPT as a, we can create a chat. There's different ways we could actually port this over to a tool called Clay. There's a lot of ways to do the sentiment analysis, but the key thing to understand here is you can use AI to analyze the sentiment of the feedback. And then if the feedback is good, you can ask for a 5-star response. So if you want to do that to ensure you get more 5-star response, I don't know, some of you are like, no, we're going to just be consistent and always send them a review. But if you're scared of, hey, what if I get all these bad reviews? Then you can use this workflow to kind of filter it out. So before asking for a review, you can simply ask for feedback, which is initially used to improve a product service before requesting reviews from customers. So that is a review workflow inside of Zoho and how Zoho can support the customer review process. Do you want to manage internal work using Zoho? If yes, review the section. If not, feel free to skip it. This is the part of the system journey where employees manage internal work. So if you want to do this, I would suggest using Zoho projects as a starting place. Let's say, for example, you want to do a product launch inside of your organization. Well, then there's a question. You'll have a meeting, you'll discuss all these things, all these different action items, everything that you need to be doing. And then you're going to think to yourself, well, how are we going to keep track of everything we just said that we were going to do? And that is where it becomes extremely important to use Zoho projects, because Zoho projects allows you to manage work. It's a work management system, more specifically, manage action items. So there's two different, think of it like a Russian nesting doll. You have project groups, then projects, then milestones, then task lists, then tasks, and subtasks, all these different records inside of Zoho projects. It'll make your head spin. There's so much going on. It's a very meaty application. But at first, you just need to use projects and tasks. So for example, I could call this task a Brockbank Consulting course launch, course product launch. And we'd have a meeting. We would discuss everything that needs to get done. And then what you'd want to do if you were smart is you do who will what format. Okay, Adam will create. Brockbank Consulting team, you could be a little more general if you're assigning to maybe a client of yours. This is why I have it in that format. Who will and what are they going to do? You'll notice this is familiar. This is also the format that I use to write out how systems work too, whether the who is a technology or it's an actual person or a role. So if you do who will what format, it becomes very clear who needs to do what, and then you can assign a date and then have these different statuses to see where are we at on the product launch. This is extremely important to do. You want to be tracking the things that you're doing. You can use projects and tasks initially, and then as you get more and more advanced in using the software, you can start to add these different milestones, and then you can start to add these task lists. So that's what this is. This is a milestone, and then this is a task list. These are the various tasks inside of each. You don't need to use these initially though. Don't feel bad if you're like, well, I'm not using it properly. Just use projects and tasks initially, and then you can start using the different reports, the documents, look through the milestones, and then you can start to get into some of the more advanced functionality there. But initially, if you're doing a product launch, you can call it product launch. You can go here, create a new project, call it product launch, and then select a template if you have a product launch template. Fill out the information about the project at a high level, and then you can start to add different tasks or add different tasks to that to initially organize. Then as the task list grows, you're going to be like, I need to create a specific task list dedicated to these tasks. And then you can have different milestones and things like that. But the important thing here is employees create action items and or assigns the action items in Zoho projects. So all action items should be written in who will what format. Like I mentioned, Drew will create a workflow that sends blah, blah, blah as an example. Employees add the action items to existing projects in Zoho projects called internal work, or creates a brand new project, then adds the new action items as a task. So some nice guidelines there. Employee reviews assign action items each day as a source of truth for their to-do list. So if you go over to the home page, and then go over to within the homepage, you can have your my overdue work items, my tasks, so that you can see what's on your specific task list, and you can use that as a way of understanding what you need to do for the day. So that is what's helpful about Zoho projects, is you can organize the work that needs to be done in the organization. And then as an employee, you can manage your own internal work for what you're going to do. Do you want to train your team using Zoho? If yes, review the section. If not, feel free to skip it. This is the part of the system journey where employees will train using Zoho Learn. And this is probably my favorite part of Zoho that I feel like no one else cares about until they flip and I explain it and they're like, oh gosh, I can see the power of this. But initially, no one cares about this, and I find it surprising. So inside of Zoho Learn, we create code for humans. We teach people in our organization how to do things. And that's where SOPs come in. And I hate creating SOPs. I really do. I love SOPs, but I hate creating them. I don't have the time to do it. But what I do have time to do is create a video. So if you're watching and you're a business leader or owner, or maybe you're an organization leader or owner, I'm going to show you how to do this on autopilot so that you don't have to create the SOPs, but you can still have SOPs and train people on autopilot. The way that you can do that is by first having an SOP on creating SOPs. Steal mine. I have a video on exactly how to do it. I am OCD and very detail oriented on how these things need to be completed. So here is my 17-minute training on how to create an SOP. So I will record another procedure. Let's say it's how to edit a short form video or how to do a sales call, something. How to start a task, how to add a task to, how to add a time log time. Big task, small task, implement something. This is a big one. I will record a video on a procedure that I'm doing that I want to train people to do. And then I'll send that recording to an assistant, my assistant. And I'll send it to my assistant along with the link to this SOP so that they create the SOP in the same format. Who will what format. So it's very clear. Now, the reason that I do this, the video gives the initial clarity of the procedure, and the bullet points below, I can easily modify over time to reflect the current procedure, because procedures, processes, steps, they're going to change over time. That's just what's going to happen. There is no avoiding that. And so if you do a flow chart, then you're not going to modify that over time. It's just not a modifiable document. And a video, you're not going to make 10 videos every time there's a major update with the procedure. You just want to create the video once to give the general gist of the procedure, and then the actual bullet points below will be the current way of conducting that procedure. It's the most updated version of the procedure. Okay, you don't have to be perfect about it. I suggest in the training a bunch of different things, but one of them is use the 80-20 rule. Just do 20% of the steps to give someone 80% understanding of how to do something. It's not going to remove yourself from training altogether. It's just going to build a very useful learning management system. That's what Zoho Learn is, by the way. It's a learning management system. It's where you store your SOPs so you can train people quickly. Now you can do a checklist, questions, things like that, but really to me, that's all optional in comparison to the demonstration video and the procedure. I would always do recordings first, send it to someone else on your team, especially if you're a business leader or owner, send it to somebody on your team if you don't have an assistant that you want them to start doing those procedures. Send them the video, they'll watch it, create the SOP, and that's essentially a check for understanding that they knew that they actually know what they watched. If they have to create an SOP and watch something and writing out all the steps, the likelihood that they're going to conduct that procedure well increases. Okay. So that's Zoho Learn. So this is, you can offload in two different ways. You can offload with code for Zoho and code for humans, right? Automation or SOPs. That's your way of delegating out to Zoho or delegating out to somebody else. So the important thing to understand is the leadership team will send a procedure recording to trusted employees. You could say leadership, manager, you, if you're a solopreneur and you have one assistant, great, you can do that too. Employees will create the Zoho Learn SOPs based on this SOP, which we're looking at right now. Kind of meta, an SOP on creating SOPs. Employees will search for a Zoho Learn SOP when doing a task. This is what I love about this. All someone needs to do then is, and I don't like doing this crazy top-down folder structure where it's like this department has here. You can do that. It's not bad, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot to organize, and I don't like making more work for my clients and myself. So I love search-based SOPs. And so I can just say, how do I start a task? I can just start a task. I don't know how to start a task. I can say, how to sort my inbox, sort inbox. And then all these SOPs will pop up based on the different keywords that I search for. And so that's a great way to do it, is have easy titles, procedures listed out, and then a video for demonstration. If you do that consistently, it's a Rome wasn't built in a day kind of thing. You're going to have to, as different things come up that you're like, this is painful, I don't want to do them, record them, send them to an assistant, send them to a trusted team member, have them create the SOPs for you so that the next time that thing arises, you can offload to them and trust that they can get it done correctly. Okay. Next thing here, employee will search for the Zoho Learn SOP when doing a task. We talked about that. Leadership team may create a Zoho Learn course for new employee onboarding. So I want you to think about it just like if you watch the Zoho desk section or customer support section, there's reactive training and there's proactive training. So reactively, there's things that are going to happen in the day that you're like, I should really start offloading this. I should really free up my time. That's what I would say is creating these videos and then these SOPs. But then you start to build a huge base of them. So this is a demonstration instance of doing this. I'm calling it the School of Practical Excellence. If any of you are finding that confusing, I'm just calling that's my internal knowledge base. That's my learning management system. There's a long story behind it. So if I wanted to be proactive about training, what I would do is I would go over to learning and I'd create a course. And so this says assistant onboarding. I could call this general onboarding. Doesn't really matter. But then I can group these SOPs because what I'm thinking now is as I hire people, I want them to have these 20 SOPs. I want them to learn these different procedures right off the bat. They need to know how to log time. They need to know how to have a sales conversation, blah, 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 blah. All those different things you can group together inside of a course so that you can train people on autopilot, air quotes, if you will, right? So that is your way of building an internal learning management system. I think about it, it reminds me a lot of Zoho Desk, except instead of whereas Zoho Desk is obviously facing, customers, prospects, supporting others, this is your internal training system. That you create SOPs on to support the learning of your system. And the nicest part is it's not very demanding. It actually, because where I see all SOPs fail is people make it so hard to create them. And there's so much formatting and it's so complicated to create one SOP. And they're like, what level of detail do I use? They do everything wrong. So it just doesn't continue. But if you're a business leader, owner, manager, and you just record something and send it out and it's an SOP, and then you can train as many people as you'd like on that and always send that link every time someone asks you a question about that procedure, then you want to do it. You want to build up a knowledge base because you can offload like crazy and you can save so much time. So that is the usefulness of Zoho Learn, and that's how Zoho can support you in your training efforts.